This video is going to be a very fun teaching video on how to interpret, how you would interpret how I interpret. And if you're interested in that. My name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the channel. And a buddy of mine asked me to cover the Gospel of Philip. And I've not done the Gospel of Philip for various reasons, although there are one part specifically in the Gospel of Philip that I go refer to quite a bit because it's so plain and so clear. And I'll do that a little bit later in the video. Right now, though, what I want to do is talk about a little bit of a setup first. Instead of just jumping right into the Gospel of Philip, I want you to think about something. Pretend we're living thousands of years ago, maybe 2,500. We're little Chinese peasant kids, and we've been hurt, orphaned and beat up and all kinds of stuff. And we go talk to the wise man on the mountain and ask him, "Master, what is life about?" And he's got lessons for us, but he wrote them down. The Tao Te Ching. This is the master. He's going to answer all of our questions about life. Buddha, same thing with the Dhammapada. These are all, we're going to go up and say, Buddha, it's not okay. What is the matter? What happened to me? And Buddha, my guru, right here. That continues on. When we get to the Gospel of Philip, guess what? If it's containing the same lessons, it is your guru too. You look at it this way, that around the world, if all these stories are the same, if they're all on the same template, then there are thousands upon thousands of gurus scattered all over the place, putting their stories together, except they all speak a different language. All right, so we're going to jump into something. I want to talk a little bit first about what I'm going to do here. I'm going to use the Marvin Meyer translation for this, for the Nag Hammadi scriptures, but I've got a Robinson translation here as well. What I'm going to show you, like if I was to go through the Robinson translation, the very first verse in the Gospel of Philip is, "A Hebrew makes another Hebrew, and such a person is called a proselyte. But a proselyte does not make another proselyte." Then there's missing words. "Just as they," or missing words, "and make others like themselves, while others simply exist." So there's some broken up stuff in there, and it sounds weird. And proselyte, Hebrew makes another Hebrew. The Meyer translation of the same book, "A Hebrew makes a Hebrew, and such a person is called a convert." Oh, a convert does not make a convert. Some people are as they are and make others like them, while others simply are. So this one's not missing any words. There are, however, some brackets in place that shows where they added in words that were missing from the original text, but if they're added in and put in brackets, they say that they're very confident that that is what they are. Very confident. That doesn't mean positive. So as you're going through translations, be aware of that there are some things in here that might trip you up. You might have one book and go, boy, I'm really struggling with this. And if you had a couple of them side by side, you might look at them and go, okay, I get a better idea. In fact, I have found I'm kind of isolated now, but when I was doing a lot more searching and was engaged a lot more, I hadn't dismissed a lot of people and a lot of things yet. It was very common for people to say, oh no, only use this translation or only use this translation. Don't use other ones. They're incorrect. And I have come to learn that, you know what, that's wrong. They're all incorrect. The original language, well, not in this case, but Chinese and Pali, and by the time you get to English translation, is it correct? No. Average it out. When people tell you only stick with one translation, there's a clue they don't know what's going on. And that's a simple one. Think about it. If you're seeking, you want as much knowledge as possible. The more you see, the more you can see. The more you limit yourself, the less you can see. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to keep it easy and go to the completed Marvin Meyer. I'm going to pretend as if it's complete because I want to teach this and we need to move along. Here, I'm going to go look up proselyte real quick. And what I see here is that the proselyte is a righteous proselyte is a Gentile who has converted to Judaism, is bound to all the doctrines and precepts of the Jewish religion, is considered to be a full member. Okay, so a proselyte is somebody who was a non-Jew who became a Jew according to that term. And they converted. And this one simply uses the term convert. So in all of the materials, since the template is being held in their culture for them, it is going to use their terms. It is going to make them want to carry it. This is my story. This is for me, the Hebrews. In a different style, the conversion really comes down to this. When you're first born, you don't have any issues. We attach to life, and we stay kind of just consciously attached to life and not knowing what's going on, having emotions, having feelings. If we get to a point where we go, I see a way to rise above this. I know how I'm seeing a way to turn inward and to rise above it. That we are the person that is going to be able to convert from our old self to our new self. And the way that they're going to be holding this is that conversion, the Gentile, that's anybody who is not turned inward and found the way. So can you make the translation that the Jew is the enlightened one and that the Gentile is the non-enlightened one? Okay, let's get on and read this, and I'm going to do a couple of things. What I want to do is identify the analogs, and let's start working on the verse itself. A Hebrew makes a Hebrew, and such a person is called a convert. A convert does not make a convert. Some people are as they are and make others like them, while others simply are. Okay, the first thing I want to do is identify two terms up there that I want to know what they are. Those are analogs. Do you see that? A Hebrew makes a Hebrew. Those are analogous to something that's about me. Convert, that's about me. All of this is about me. I am a convert does not mean, what is it? Okay, so a Hebrew is what? A Hebrew is me. A convert, we figured that out. The convert is the person that is enlightened. All right, I'm going to tell you something, too, that as I go through these, you might look at them and go, oh, yeah, I see how that works. I see what he's doing. But you know what you can't do? You can't say, all right, I'm going to grab the next one and go do it myself. You're going to grab it and go, how come the rest of it doesn't work like that? There's a wiring shift that has to happen. You can do it, but you have to learn to make that analogous shift. We're going to do that a little bit more in this video. So, the Hebrew, me, at various times. The Hebrew makes a Hebrew. What that means is that, and I'm using other material and finding comparisons elsewhere. I think I would really struggle with this if I didn't know other things. Like Moses was called at Mount Horeb, but before then, he was saved as a child. Jason went back in his, early 20s to, get his crew together and go back and get his land back, but he was saved out as a child. This is a Hebrew makes a Hebrew. There's a point where the called person decides to make the call. There's a point in time where you might in your own life say, that's it, I'm done, I'm finished. I am turning inward. I'm going to rectify this. I'm going to take care of this. That is the moment of calling. But only certain people are going to do that. That's what we're seeing right here. And such a person is called a convert. So what I'm going to shift this to, and this can be flexible. I am this individual, and it's going to be kind of a rare individual. It's kind of a calling here. I'm this individual, and one day when I'm ready, I'm going to take this journey to self-heal. But a convert does not make a convert. Each healed person cannot heal other people. Each person must take their own path. By implication, that is what we get out of that. Whoever has the healing, I'm healed. Let me put my hand, something like that. Nope, it doesn't work. You want to heal? You turn inward and face your past. That's the only way to do it. So that's what it's telling us right there in the beginning. You're called. It's time. You're going to make the conversion. And I worked this through, and to me, when you get to the point where you're saying things like, you cannot heal others, if you keep playing that out in the mind and go, why not? What is going on? How can I heal myself but not them? The reason I can heal myself is because I'm turned inward and I'm doing it for myself and they're not. Oh, that's the real deal. We have to think it through to get it to the mental, to the deepest mental part. What it is saying is that it's a personal inward trip. It isn't about anybody else. It's about yourself. But it's held in a very cryptic way. You have to think it through. You know what? That is what they were doing. That was their life. This is what they were doing, but they were not doing it. They were doing it by memory. Okay, do you see how that works? What else was in here? Some people are as they are and make others like them, while others simply are. What happens in the beginning of all the material? What happens in the beginning of our life when we start? This is This is first sin, and is that Adam and Eve too? Make others like some people are as they are, and make others like them. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Life experience. There's a point in time when we're young, we begin to experience life through the physical experiences. We're seeing, we're observing, we're smelling, tasting, touching. We're having all these emotional experiences, getting caught up, getting wrapped up, getting hurt, getting desire. All of that stuff is a normal part of our life. Everybody is going to do that. That is the part where we are as they are. But most people out there are going to stay in that realm forever. They're always going to be living a life attaching like that. That's not always bad. I mean, you have a good job, you're working, things like that. You're not detached from that. I don't mean that. I mean the emotional kind of things, the emotional state of your life. If it's like, oh, depressed and hurt and angry and there's things happening and cycling all the time, these are the issues right here that we know. That's not in this material, but you kind of have to blend it all together. The making other people like them is that we are first in life attaching to life, while others simply are. I'm not sure on that one. It almost sounds like there's some people that aren't going to do that, or they're going to separate or something like that. A Hebrew makes a Hebrew, and such a person is called a convert, but you cannot make anyone else as they are. Okay, I'm putting every bit of it in the psyche and in my lifetime, and it has to fit somehow in a way that you can look at it and go, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I see how that would work. That's it. After translating the analogous terms, finding the concepts, and seeing where they go. All right, I want to do the next line, but then I want to move on and do some comparisons to show some things. I think it's very important for me in this video to emphasize how each of these is carrying the story, and some of them are very complex, hard, deep, multi-layered. Some of them are very simple and easy. And now that I see them, it's like, oh, you know what? It would be easier to learn this stuff with the shorter, easier verse stuff to begin with. I think the Gospel of Philip is pretty thick. It's got some bizarre things in it. Okay, here is the next one. A slave seeks only to be free and does not seek the master's estate. All right, and if you're looking at the screen, you will see that I have taken the nouns. That's what I call the analogs, and I've highlighted those red. I want to identify what those are, making sure that I know. I think free may or may not be. I know free is a free state, though. That is right on. And I've got seek identified as what we're trying to accomplish. A slave and the master's estate, then. The easiest thing to start with for me is the master's estate, because it is a very common element. The world, your territory, your land, your kingdom, the master's estate, your vineyard, any of those component parts, this is your space right here. This is where you live. This is where you operate. It's my world, which is your perception, how your life perception is. That's the master's estate. Temple. It's a temple that's divided with a curtain that there's a threshold that has to be crossed in there. So, actually, that's the estate. Yeah, that is the estate. Right now it belongs to the master. So what is the slave? And master, of course, just means whatever stage we are in life at that time, and whatever our primary thoughts are, that's who's in charge of our life. 20 years ago, what were you like? That was the master at that time. Now, who it is? Who is it? That's the master at this time. So that's what that refers to. Slave wanting to be free. By default, again, this is inside of us. So there's something inside of us that we don't want to be hanging on to something. We don't want to seek the master's estate. Do you at any point in time look at this and does it shift? I saw this and I didn't see it instantly, but after reading it a couple of times, I said, oh, that's cause and effect. That's hard to see in there, isn't it? A slave seeks only to be free. The slave is something that is inside of me, like a bad child. It seeks to be free and does not seek the master's estate. We need to let things go. It's written in a very bizarre way, but when you play it out in the psyche and put it where it belongs and compare it with everything else, we've got cyclical pain. The slave, yeah, you don't want to be there. So we've got a couple of issues emerging in the script right here that are tricky to see. If you watch my videos, I've got one that I use a lot that I've made up, the anchored ship cannot sail. And that's where this is fitting right here. The anchored ship cannot sail the way I intend it to be means that I am hanging on to something, and as long as I am, I can't sail free. So I'm stuck to something. The slave would be like something on the boat that's like, I don't want to be in your predicament. I want to be free of that. I don't want to inherit your situation here. That is what is it. It's getting in the most fun verbal puzzle way. They're all saying the same thing, but it sticks up in the head. They were brilliant. But at the same time, you could look at that and say, well, it could be my earlier self that wants to not have my old self or something like that. There's a couple of ways of looking at it that you have to keep hammering at it. But anyway, you see what I'm doing there. Okay, what I want to do is jump over real quickly. Let's pull up a couple of verses from the Gospel of Thomas. I want to talk about a couple of things here real quick and show you something. Now, I'm not going to go into a full-blown comparison here. I'm going to do a little bouncing around, but I want to just kind of replicate the technique a little bit more and show that there are some similarities. These are the hidden sayings that the living Jesus spoke and Judas Thomas the twin recorded. Then what I've gone ahead and done is, again, color-coded my analogs and the words I'm concerned with here. I want to identify what is a hidden saying, what is living Jesus, who is Judas Thomas the twin, and what then is recorded as a result. Again, I'm going to treat everything here as an analogous term, that I don't look at this and go, that just really happened. Jesus told Thomas something. I wonder what that was. This is something that plays out up here. This is ours. This belongs to us. Okay. We have hidden sayings here. You see this? They're nested. We're finding the hidden sayings. Living Jesus is a representation. We had... in the last story, it was the Hebrew. In this story, it is Jesus. But it's living Jesus. This is weird. This is where you're going to find a Gnostic and Christian Gnostic, standard sort of Christian variation in it. In Christianity, you're going to find Jesus and Christ. Jesus represents the self before enlightenment and Christ afterwards. In this case, they're using living Jesus as the enlightened one. You see, it's got a variation to it. It doesn't sound exactly like what's in the Bible, but it's still there. It's just the verbiage is a little different. This would be Christ if you said it in the Bible. These are the hidden sayings that Christ spoke and Judas Thomas the twin recorded. You see that? So that means that the from an enlightened place, the hidden sayings are coming from an enlightened place, and Judas Thomas, the twins. All of those names are twin. Twin would mean what? This is a spiritual realm. This means we can talk to people that understand this. This is a rare thing. We're getting ready to go on a teaching lesson here the same way. But you can see right in the beginning here, it's like, oh, there's some secret stuff in here that we're looking at and probably finding it, I think, that... the living Jesus, this is the elevated position to look at it from. And so we're doing that right now. We're actually, I believe, living into this verse right here as this is going on. So if we look at what we just read in the Gospel of Philip, that a convert does not make a convert, which means that becoming healed means you can't heal other people. But right here we're seeing that healed people can communicate, talk, discuss. Here's what you must do with other people that have the twin mind type. Some people think I'm over the top. I think I think it's so consistent. If you get into it and keep looking at it, you're like, yeah, that's all brain stuff. It is. Every bit of it is. It's brain stuff. Okay. Let me see where else to go from here. Actually, I want to keep it short. I do want to talk about that one area in the Gospel of Philip that I said that I refer to a bit. But the other thing that I wanted to say is that if you think about what I'm saying, is that I'm pretty convinced that regardless of where you go, the verse material, the style, you could just grab by itself the Sermon on the Mount or the Sermon on the Plain. period. Shortest conceptual way to have it. If you wanted to learn how to read it that way. Now, what I find in the shortest material, it's straight, here's how you heal. That's it. The bigger material is, here's how you heal through analogous lifestyle that helps you stay close to the template and provides you with a lifestyle and something to live on a day-to-day basis. It's not just, okay, I'm healed, now what? Well, you have to take all of the things that you used to be about that you're trying to heal from and replace them with something different. You don't simply destroy yourself, you create a new self. And that is not present in the short material, that creating of a new self sort of a thing. It might mention it, but it isn't a process. The longer, bigger material can start going that direction. In a case like the Gospel of Philip, I haven't analyzed it to the nth degree. There are parts of it that I have, but I let it go because there's a point I recognize that this pattern is there everywhere. Where do I want to pull it from? If I pull it from the Gospel of Philip, low interest. I wanted to get it from the Bible and other, places there. So that was the thickest, deepest stuff. If, however, you want to do this, you have to do those analogs. These are different than what I've been working with. I can just pop this up right here. The tree of life, however, is in the middle of the garden. Okay, that's a reference back to Garden of Eden. But up here in the mind, what is the garden? The middle of the garden. This is the garden up here. This is your garden. The tree that is in the middle, the tree of life, that is what is in the middle of the garden. It is an olive tree, and from it comes chrism, and from chrism comes resurrection. So I don't know what chrism is. Resurrection is a rebirth. Something comes with the olive. We're trying to get back to that point. You can kind of start working it through that way and go, okay, yeah, they're just continuously doing that process right there. Let me just randomly grab another one here. People who are slaves against their will can be free. People who are freed by favor of their master and then sell themselves back into slavery cannot be free again. People who are slaves against their will can be free. Okay, you know what? I'm stuck. Here's the deal. You get into one area, they're using analogs that are different. They're for their culture. You have to stop, figure it out, and focus on that. What do they mean? If you read them as, if you think they're slaves and free will, freed by favor of the masters, and that those are physical things, slaves and masters and things out in the physical world, it's not being interpreted. These have to somehow be representative of something in the psyche. And everybody's doing the same thing, but they're using different analogs. They're going to sound different. They're going to be very personal. They're going to be unique to them. It's going to be very difficult to see what they're doing. I think that if you're trying to study it to the really nth degree, I would not recommend the Gospel of Philip unless you just really want to go after it. It's thick, but you saw what I was doing there. That's what I would continue to do. Exactly what I'm doing. Identify the analogs. What do those things mean up here? Oh, geez. No, the master can't be the one. The slave can't be the upper one. There's a hierarchy. You maintain that. Here's the space. The master is the one in charge. The slave is. You see that that's a mental process that happens up here. And if you find where they fit, you can find how to interact with them. It becomes this idea that, I must let go of my past. I must, turn inward and heal. These things are what begin to emerge. But they become pretty thick. So I don't want to work on the Gospel of Philip because I'm really dug into the Bible right now. Genesis and Exodus a little bit, but I need to go back to Genesis and continue to establish what they're doing with a lot of analogs. They've got an analog garden. I gotta go pick through that and see what there is. It shows up in Exodus and other places, so it would help the identification downstream to know what they're doing as they establish it up front. So I'm going to stay there and work. But I wanted to just emphasize that. The Dhammapada, the very first verse, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts It is made up of our thoughts. If a man speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows him as the wheel follows the foot of the ox that draws the carriage. So they did not have a calling right here. What is absent is the steps that it's yours, that it's very uniquely mine, that this is, that I am, that this is a part of a religious cultural thing that belongs to me. This one becomes something that's very unique to you. We're not going to call it you are a good Buddhist if it just says a man, any person. So what is different in something like this? There's a couple of pieces up front that's letting you know that, oh yeah, it's also rare. And there's a couple of snags that you're going to run into. This doesn't include that. It just tells you, hey, here's your path. You go. And if you don't take it, you don't take it. Who needs all the details? You'll eventually look around and go, there's not very many people doing this. That comes clear anyway. So some of the details are there and they're interesting. They don't necessarily guide you on the path, but they guide you in life, letting you understand why you're kind of alone sometimes. Okay, I said I had an area in here that I like to refer to a lot. I think it should become pretty clear. I'm not going to post it up there because it's too long. I'm just going to read it. It is I'm going to be reading from the Meyer translation. It's the Gospel of Philip. And this is on page 184. And I am starting at hidden parts. And I'm going to read down through the root of evil. Maybe even ignorance is the mother of evil. Hidden parts. Remember now, as you hear this, try to play it out in the psyche. Hidden parts. That's what's hidden inside of us. We already know what they are, though. When they're called hidden parts, we can't look at them and go, I wonder what they are. We have to go, oh, those are the parts I hid. That's what they mean. As long as their insides are hidden, most beings in the world are alive and well. If their insides are exposed, they die, as is clear by the example of the visible part of a person. As long as a person's intestines are hidden, the person is alive. If the intestines are exposed and come out, the person dies. Okay, that part right there, I'm going to say that there's some weird things that pop up here and there. This is a little complicated. This is about the physical world. Then it's going to shift to an inner world. Outer looking, inner looking. Outer looking, inner looking. You will find places where that happens. You'll find places where that happens in the Bible too. It'll sound like something doesn't make sense. In this case, it's a pretty smooth flow. But it goes on and says, likewise. Just like. Analogous to. Likewise, while its root is hidden, a tree sprouts and grows. If its root is exposed, the tree withers. So, what is the tree growing in? Well, that's real life. Okay, we'll just call that life. Yeah, what they're saying here, and it depends on the tree, I'm sure. But if there's a tree growing and you chop it off, it grows back again. I think that depends on the tree. But the implication here is that as long as the root is in, the tree comes back. So it is with all things produced in the world, not only the visible, but also the hidden. As long as the root of evil is hidden, it is strong. Right here it's shifting to inner looking. When it is recognized, it is undone, and if brought to light, it dies. For this reason, the Word says, this is from the Bible, already the axe is laid at the root of the trees. I don't know where that is. Psalms, Matthew, something. They will not merely cut them down, for what is cut down sprouts up again. Rather, the axe will dig down until it cuts out the root. So they're talking about to rid whatever this is that's coming back and cycling, that you have to pull it out from the root. An anchored ship cannot sail. Let go the anchor. Let go the root. Stop the cycles by getting rid of the source of the cycles. At the mental level, it gets down to that point. Then it says, Jesus pulled out the root of the whole place, but others did so only in parts. So the idea then for enlightenment is to just keep going after everything until you're like, okay, I got nothing else hidden. Yep. You can say, I got a couple of things that are so difficult, I have to resolve them, and then leave a lot of other stuff in the past that's like, okay, I can kind of manage that. That's not enlightenment. Jesus went in and cleaned out for full enlightenment, you got to do it all. The root of evil. Let each of us also dig down after the root of evil within us and pull it out of our hearts from the root. It will be uprooted if we recognize it. See, this is it right here. What we're being taught right here is to look at it, to not hide from it, to not ignore it, to not deny it. But if we are ignorant of it, it takes root in us and produces fruit in our hearts. It dominates us. We are its slaves, and it takes us captive so that we do what we do not want and do not do what we do want. It is powerful because we do not recognize it. As long as it exists, it stays active. That is what is inside of us that you sit back and go later, God, why do I keep doing that? I ruin it all. What is the matter with me? That's it. As long as it exists, it stays active. It is powerful because we do not recognize it. It's time to turn inward and look at it. We use our higher being with that. Ignorance is the mother of all evil. Ignorance is the mother of all evil. So not knowing or not caring or not understanding is really what gives birth to the bad that we have. Ignorance leads to death. This is spiritual death, because those who come from ignorance neither were nor are nor will be. I don't have to keep going on there. That part I like, though, because it's pretty clear about the garden, the chopping things out, it's getting it out of there. Yeah, I like using that one as a reference. They're not all that simple to see, though, in there, and I haven't spent time with them. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that. I do hope that was helpful. I know I didn't get very far. I apologize. I didn't do very many verses with the Gospel of Philip. But yeah, I'm going to go back and focus on Genesis. So I've got a process going on right there, and sometimes I have to take breaks from it and let the wiring complete. Yeah, you stretch out for things. I don't know what to do. Your brain hurts. You have to just quit for a while. Then you come back a little fresher. So it will be that way. If you go after this, it will be you go after it for a while, then you got to take a break. Then you go after it, then you take a break. That's the cyclical process. It is. The healing process is also that way. One thing, feel better. I'll warn you, if you take care of something, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I feel incredibly better. What happens to us in life? We have a certain way that we feel as kids. As life goes on, we begin to accumulate things and we begin to feel a different way. We begin to take on different emotions. And they may not feel good, but we get accustomed to them. Sometimes they trigger, we're not accustomed to that, but we get used to carrying them. But that is gradually changing without our not knowing the set point of the way that we feel, our emotional general state of being. As we begin to remove things, you're going to feel uplifting. Like in the same way you felt bad when something bad happened, you're going to feel good when you let it go. And after maybe a period of time, though, you're going to get accustomed to that. That's going to be a new daily set point. So that once, oh my gosh, I feel so good, I can walk on water, I feel like. That sensation when you first let stuff go doesn't stay in place. But each time you make a step, it does. Anyway, the human adjusts that way. That's a part of what's looking at the material, looking at things, the things that we don't want to face. It's going and looking at them, facing them, addressing them within our own minds. It's a process that I haven't got to. It's kind of a personal thing, and it's farther down the road. Actually, what I mean is that the way that how you engage with yourself. We know what the process is. It's very much the idea that we have a memory of experience, or somehow we've judged an experience and we're holding an emotional charge to that experience and to our life experiences. And those emotional charge and the nature of those emotional charges, be they shame, anger, hatred, those sorts of things, fear, when those are in there, whenever there's an opportunity for them to trigger, they're going to continue to emerge, but they're from within inside of us. That is always the target of our quest, those things, what we're hanging on to. It'd be like I acted out in anger about something. We got to be honest. I'm angry about seeing something. because I have shame about something that correlates to that situation that I saw. And the reason that I got the anger out there is because of something that I've got up in here. However, because I evolved to look outward, I still look out and blame that situation out there without knowing this is up here. So the person that makes the transition turns inward to find this because they recognize the nature of that is coming from here. We begin to see pattern behavior, cycles of behavior, and the ability to change the nature of the experiences by changing the nature of the memory that we're hanging on to that creates that continual cyclical experience in a negative way. All of the material is going to get there. How do you like that? A spoiler alert, too late, huh? I think people need to find it on their own, though. I think, like I said, I know well in my mind that sometime back, if I had heard somebody read like I am doing right now, I would be like, I don't even know what that person's talking about. Yet, I think that there are all kinds of people that are going to understand this, but they're going to understand it when they're ready to go, I need to become the Hebrew now. It's time to go on my quest. Moses, here I am. I want to be Jason? I don't know. Yeah, we got a lot of options out there. When it's time to turn inward, these are the paths we take. And it was what they did in their culture for their lives to help them. And it's wonderful. It's fun to see. I can sit here and do videos like this, and it's like, I barely tapped it. I'm just showing little itty bits and pieces. You can see it a lot faster than you can show it. But the person has to see it for themselves. It's constantly there. I can point things, but you have to pick it up and go, all right. I don't see it. How? I don't see. Oh, maybe. I think. Is it possible? My brain hurts. Oh. A couple days later. Oh, you know what? Okay. I'm seeing this. It's going to go like that. You have to want to see it, and it's going to process that way. It did for me, and it still does. You know, there's another thing, quite honestly. There's a part of what I am doing that requires just massive amount of different cross study of material. However, and that was to find the template. Once the template is discovered, it's like, okay, all that cross learning doesn't need to be there unless somebody's interested in doing it. There is really ways to turn inward, but I think most people aren't going to do it. They're going to grow up and, live within their cultural, whatever is, those that turn in. There it is. No matter where you are on the planet, you got it. You do. All right. Hope the video was fun. I should be back into the Genesis one next time. All right. Take care.